For more than 5 decades, Jack Nicholson was one of the defining faces of American cinema. He earned 12 Academy Award nominations, won 3 Oscars, and built a career filled with unforgettable performances that shaped generations of moviegoers. Yet after 2010, something extraordinary happened. One of Hollywood's most recognizable stars simply vanished. There was no farewell tour, no emotional retirement announcement, no final interview explaining his decision. He just stopped acting. For years, rumors filled the silence. Was he ill? Had age finally caught up with him? Was there a deeper reason behind his disappearance? To understand why Jack Nicholson walked away from Hollywood, you first have to understand the remarkable life that brought him there. Jack Nicholson was born on April 22, 1937, in New York City under circumstances that would remain hidden from him for nearly 4 decades. His mother, June Nicholson, was a teenager and unmarried when she became pregnant. To avoid the stigma attached to single motherhood during that era, June's mother, Ethel Mae Nicholson, agreed to raise the child as her own. As a result, Jack grew up believing Ethel Mae was his mother and that June was merely his older sister. The deception became so complete that official documents reinforced the story. For almost 40 years, Nicholson had no reason to question the reality he had been given. His childhood in New Jersey was modest. The family was working class and money was often tight. The man Jack believed was his father was actually his grandfather. Looking back, there was a pattern running through the family. Several of the adults who raised him had experienced adoption, separation, or fractured family relationships themselves. The emotional weight of those experiences lingered beneath the surface long before Jack understood his own place in the story. Even as a teenager, Nicholson stood out. At Manasquan High School, classmates voted him both class clown and best actor. The combination would prove strangely prophetic. He was charismatic, rebellious, and rarely interested in following rules. Years later, he joked that he spent nearly an entire school year in detention. In 1955, at just 18 years old, Nicholson left New Jersey for California. Like countless dreamers before him, he arrived in Los Angeles hoping to find opportunity. His first job had nothing to do with acting. He worked at MGM's animation department, running errands and performing odd jobs around the studio. The legendary creators of Tom and Jerry, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, were among the people he encountered. Eventually, he was offered a position as an animator. Surprisingly, he declined. The job would have meant lower pay, and Nicholson believed acting offered greater possibilities. It was a decision that changed the course of his life. He began studying at the Players Ring Theater under acting coach Jeff Corey, a respected teacher whose students would eventually include some of Hollywood's most influential talents. Corey taught that acting wasn't about pretending. It was about drawing from real experiences and emotions. Nicholson embraced that philosophy completely. Success, however, did not arrive quickly. Throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, Nicholson appeared in low-budget films and television shows while struggling to establish himself. Realizing that acting alone wasn't opening enough doors, he expanded into writing and producing. He co-wrote scripts, collaborated on experimental projects, and developed relationships with emerging filmmakers who would later help shape the new Hollywood movement. Then came the breakthrough. In 1969, Nicholson landed the role of George Hanson in Easy Rider after actor Rip Torn exited the project. What seemed like a fortunate replacement turned into a career-defining opportunity. His performance as the eccentric Southern lawyer captured audiences immediately and earned him his first Academy Award nomination. Almost overnight, the struggling actor became one of Hollywood's most exciting new stars. The years that followed cemented his reputation. The Last Detail showcased his explosive charisma and earned another Oscar nomination. Chinatown elevated him even further, placing him at the center of one of the greatest mystery films ever made. Then, in 1975, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest transformed him into a genuine legend. His portrayal of Randall McMurphy won him the Academy Award for Best Actor and helped the film sweep the 5 major Oscar categories. Nicholson was no longer simply successful. He had become a cultural force. The momentum continued throughout the following decades. In The Shining, he delivered one of cinema's most terrifying performances as Jack Torrance. Stanley Kubrick's demanding production pushed cast and crew to their limits, but the result became one of the most analyzed horror performances in film history. 3 years later, Terms of Endearment earned Nicholson his second Oscar, proving his talents extended far beyond intense or unstable characters. He could be charming, funny, vulnerable, and deeply human. Off-screen, Nicholson's lifestyle became almost as famous as his movies. His Mulholland Drive home became a gathering place for Hollywood's elite. Stories of parties, romances, and excess became part of his public image. He dated some of the most celebrated women in entertainment and developed a reputation as one of Hollywood's most notorious bachelors. Yet alongside the glamour were moments of controversy and tragedy. His home became indirectly connected to the infamous Roman Polanski scandal of 1977 when the assault of Samantha Geimer occurred there while Nicholson was away. Although Nicholson had no involvement in the crime, the association permanently linked his address to one of Hollywood's darkest chapters. Professionally, however, his power only grew. In 1989, Nicholson revolutionized actor compensation during negotiations for Batman. Rather than accepting a larger upfront salary, he negotiated a percentage of the film's profits and merchandise revenue. The deal reportedly earned him tens of millions of dollars and became one of the most famous contracts in entertainment history. By the 1990s, Nicholson was commanding extraordinary salaries. For A Few Good Men, he received millions for a relatively brief appearance, yet his courtroom speech became one of the most iconic moments in modern cinema. "You Can't Handle the Truth" entered popular culture and remains one of the most quoted movie lines ever spoken. His third Oscar arrived in 1998 for As Good as It Gets. The performance demonstrated a different side of Nicholson. Rather than relying on intensity or unpredictability, he delivered a nuanced portrayal of a deeply flawed man searching for connection. It was a masterclass in control and emotional precision. As he entered his 60s and 70s, Nicholson continued proving his versatility. Films such as About Schmidt and The Departed showed an actor who no longer needed to dominate every scene. His presence alone could transform a film. Yet something began to change. Friends and colleagues noticed he was becoming increasingly selective. Roles that once might have interested him no longer seemed worth the effort. The demands of filmmaking appeared less appealing than the quiet comfort of his private life. Then came How Do You Know in 2010. The romantic comedy was not intended to be a farewell project. There was no sense that it would become Nicholson's final screen appearance. Yet after the film's release, he never acted again. Years passed without explanation. In 2013, Nicholson finally offered a small glimpse into his thinking. He explained that he was no longer driven to be out there the way he once had been. The excitement that fueled his career had faded. He wanted meaningful projects, but he also valued his freedom. That same year, rumors emerged claiming memory problems had forced him into retirement. Reports suggested he struggled to remember lines. Those claims were widely circulated but never officially confirmed. Friends and representatives denied that Nicholson was suffering from dementia, and people close to him insisted he continued reading scripts. Even so, no comeback materialized. In 2017, he was attached to an American remake of Tony Erdmann. For a brief moment, fans believed a return was finally happening. Then the project collapsed. As the years passed, Nicholson retreated further from public life. Reports described him spending most of his time at his longtime Mulholland Drive property. The man who once represented Hollywood excess and limitless energy had become increasingly private. Public concern intensified in the early 2020s. Speculation about his health spread online, fueled by infrequent sightings and tabloid reports. Yet no verified diagnosis was ever announced. The truth remained known only to Nicholson and those closest to him. Throughout this period, two people appeared to remain at the center of his life: his children, Lorraine and Ray Nicholson. Both maintained close relationships with their father, and Ray in particular became a visible link between the legendary actor and a new generation of movie audiences. Nicholson's rare public appearances became major events. For decades, he had been synonymous with courtside seats at Los Angeles Lakers games. His reactions were often as entertaining as the games themselves. When he reappeared at Lakers playoff games in 2023 after a lengthy absence, the photographs sparked worldwide attention. He looked older and more fragile, yet unmistakably remained Jack Nicholson. The smile was still there. So was the presence. The years continued to pass without a return to acting. Occasional reports suggested he was considering interviews or even one final role, but nothing concrete emerged. Then, during the devastating Los Angeles wildfires of 2025, a glimpse of the old Nicholson appeared. His former partner, Anjelica Huston, revealed that he personally called and offered her shelter in his home during the crisis. It was a small gesture, but it reminded people that behind the legend was still a man capable of loyalty, warmth, and compassion. Today, the mystery surrounding Jack Nicholson's retirement remains largely unresolved. Perhaps he simply lost interest in the demands of filmmaking. Perhaps age and health played a role. Perhaps after spending half a century at the top of Hollywood, he felt he had nothing left to prove. Whatever the reason, his legacy is secure. 3 Oscars, 12 Academy Award nominations, dozens of unforgettable performances, and a career that helped define modern American cinema. Jack Nicholson didn't leave Hollywood because audiences stopped watching. He left because, after decades of conquering the industry, he finally chose something he had spent a lifetime avoiding, a quiet life away from the spotlight. And in a way, that may be the most Jack Nicholson ending of all.